Along the western coast of North America, a narrow strip of land stretches between the wild Pacific Ocean and the Sea of Cortez. Baja California. Running for more than 750 miles, it's the second longest peninsula on Earth. At first glance, Baja feels like a desert, and in many ways, it is. Rain is rare. The sun dominates. Life here survives on its own terms, adapting in strange and beautiful ways. Towering cacti stretch skyward, and the land seems frozen in stubborn endurance. Millions of years ago, Baja California was part of the mainland, fused to what is now Mexico. But deep beneath the surface, the Earth had other plans. Along the shifting boundary of the San Andreas Fault, the peninsula began to pull away. What followed was a long, narrow sea caught between drifting land masses. The Gulf of California was born out of that separation. A widening fracture that became a world of its own. The French explorer Jacques Cousteau even called it the aquarium of the world. But on the land, the world suddenly changes. The lushness of the sea gives way to uncompromising dryness. In many regions, rain simply doesn't come. Months pass, sometimes years. The land survives on scarcity. There are no major rivers here. What exists instead is absence. Among this barren landscape, cacti take root in the dust, adapted to conditions that seem beyond survival. Everything here is built around endurance, around making the most of almost nothing. But beyond the desert floor, where the land begins to climb, elevation changes everything. Temperatures drop, moisture lingers. Pine forests spread across the slopes, creating an environment that feels completely disconnected from the desert below. And in winter, snow falls. Not everywhere and not often, but enough to transform the peaks into something magical. Even the name carries a sense of myth. California began as an idea. A fictional island described in a 16th century Spanish novel, a distant land of wealth and wonder. When early explorers reached this peninsula, isolated and surrounded by water, they believed they had found that island. And at the very end of it all, the long descent of desert, mountains, and coastline, Baja California comes to a stop. Here, at the southern tip of the peninsula, two vast bodies of water finally meet. The restless Pacific Ocean collides with the warmer, more sheltered waters of the Gulf of California. For millions of years, Cabo San Lucas has been under constant pressure. The same tectonic forces that pulled Baja California away from the mainland fractured the crust here. What we see today, this jagged shoreline with isolated stacks rising from the sea, are the remains of that slow geological upheaval. But tectonics only set the stage. What followed was erosion. Waves from two bodies of water converge here, amplifying their force. Over thousands of years, they have carved into the fractured rock. And that process gave rise to the most iconic feature of this coastline, El Arco de Cabo San Lucas. The arch began as a solid headland, a continuous mass of rock extending into the sea. But the stone here is not uniform. Some layers are more resistant, others more fragile. As waves pounded the base, they gradually opened caves and tunnels through the weaker sections. Over time, those cavities expanded, eventually breaking through to the other side. And just beyond the rocks, beyond the arch and the breaking waves, there is a city that carries the same name. For most of its history, Cabo San Lucas was a small, isolated fishing village. Its location, right at the meeting point of two powerful bodies of water, made it rich in marine life, but not easily accessible. There were no major roads connecting it to the rest of the peninsula until the mid-20th century. What existed here was simplicity: a handful of homes, a working harbor, and a deep reliance on the sea. In the 1970s, infrastructure projects started to link the southern tip of Baja to the outside world. As access improved, tourism expanded. Resorts rose along the coastline. The marina grew into a central hub filled with luxury yachts. What had once been a remote outpost became a destination recognized far beyond Mexico. As Baja California began to separate along the boundary of the San Andreas Fault, the Earth's crust stretched and fractured. What started as a series of rifts slowly widened, allowing seawater to flood in. Over time, those fractures deepened, forming a chain of basins, some of them plunging thousands of feet below the surface. The Gulf of California was not carved from above. It was pulled apart from below. And that origin defines everything about it. Unlike open oceans, the Sea of Cortez is long and narrow, with limited exchange with the Pacific. This creates a unique system of currents, circulating, mixing, and trapping nutrients within its boundaries. Below the surface, the seafloor is anything but flat. Underwater mountains rise from the depth, deep trenches cut through the basin. And all of it feeds life. Nutrients fuel massive blooms of plankton, the foundation of the entire ecosystem. From there, everything builds upward. Fish gather in dense schools. Predators follow. This is where scale begins to shift. Pods of dolphins cut across the surface. Sea lions gather along rocky outcrops, diving and surfacing in constant motion. And then, the largest of them all. Blue whales pass through these waters, massive, unreal in their size. Their migration routes intersect with the Gulf, drawn by the abundance of food concentrated here. It's one of the few places on Earth where such encounters are not just possible, but expected. Suddenly, strange shapes erupt from the water. For a brief second, they seem to hover, suspended between sea and sky. These are mobula ray, one of the most unusual spectacles in the Gulf of California. The rays move in groups, sometimes thousands, gliding just beneath the surface in synchronized motion. And then, suddenly, they accelerate, breaking away and surging upward. No one fully agrees on why they do it. Some researchers believe the jumps help dislodge parasites. Others suggest communication. It may even be linked to mating behavior. Or perhaps, like many things in the natural world, it's a combination of all of these. A coordinated burst of energy across an entire population, triggered by conditions that are still not completely understood. Where the mobula rays gather, predators follow. Hammerhead sharks circle around them. They move in groups, and their look is unlike anything else in the ocean. The broad head, called a cephalofoil, is not just for appearance, it's a highly specialized structure. Eyes placed at the far ends give the shark an expanded field of vision. Beneath the surface, electroreceptors detect the faint signals emitted by other animals. They don't just see their environment, they scan it. Moving along the edges of the schools, hammerheads take advantage of the chaos. Injured or disoriented individuals become targets. Smaller fish, scattered by the movement, are picked off. It's not a frantic chase, but a controlled, efficient hunt. At Cabo Pulmo, a coral reef rises from the seabed. Not large by global standards, but significant for where it exists. It's one of the oldest in the eastern Pacific, formed in conditions that are often too unstable for coral to survive. The reef provides structure, something solid in a shifting environment. Currents bring nutrients into the area. Together, they create a system where life doesn't just pass through, but stays and grows. Schools of fish gather in dense formations, moving as a single body. Predators circle the edges, drawn by the concentration. Smaller species fill the spaces in between, occupying every available niche. It's not chaotic, it's organized. A functioning ecosystem, layered and interconnected, where each level supports the next. The capital and largest city of Baja California Sur is La Paz. Set along the western shore of the Gulf of California, La Paz feels like a counterpoint to Cabo San Lucas, a place where the sea is not something to conquer, but something to live with. Spanish explorers reached these shores in the 16th century, naming the bay for its apparent tranquility, peace. But the name didn't always match reality. Early settlements struggled. Isolation, lack of fresh water, and the harsh desert environment made survival difficult. For centuries, La Paz remained hard to sustain. Attempts at colonization came and went. Only in the 19th century did La Paz begin to stabilize, growing slowly into a permanent settlement. The urban core is organized around a central plaza, anchored by the Cathedral of Our Lady of Peace, constructed in 1865. The building follows a simple colonial design, with a symmetrical facade and twin towers. From La Paz, the coastline turns eastward. The desert hills pull back from the water, and the shoreline opens into a paradise lagoon, Playa Balandra. The water here is impossibly clear, shifting between pale turquoise and soft blue. But what defines Balandra isn't just the color, it's the depth, or rather the lack of it. The bay is shallow, so shallow that you can walk far out into the water and still remain only waist deep. The seabed slopes imperceptibly, creating a wide lagoon where the surface stays perfectly still. Light penetrates all the way to the bottom, illuminating the sand below. And rising from that shallow water is a shape that has become a symbol of this place, El Hongo de Balandra. A single rock formation, balanced on a narrow base, sculpted over time by wind and gentle wave action. And just beyond Playa Balandra, the coastline breaks apart. Across the water, a chain of islands stretches along the gulf. Among them, one stands out, Isla Espiritu Santo. Its cliffs glow in shades of red and ochre, especially in the low light of morning and evening. These colors come from volcanic rock, exposed and sculpted over time. Layered like a geological record of the island's formation. As the Gulf of California opened, fragments of land were isolated, lifted, fractured, and surrounded by water. Espiritu Santo is one of those fragments, detached, exposed, and left to evolve on its own. After the sun is gone, the sea becomes a flat, black surface, stretching out without detail. But as waves reach the shore, for a brief moment they glow. Sharp, electric blue. The light seems artificial, yet it's natural. Bioluminescence. It comes from microscopic organisms, most commonly a type of plankton known as dinoflagellates. Individually, they are invisible to the naked eye, but in the right conditions, they gather in massive numbers. And when disturbed, they emit light. The mechanism is chemical. Inside each organism, a reaction takes place between a molecule called luciferin and an enzyme known as luciferase. When it happens at scale, every movement becomes visible. Waves trace glowing lines as they break along the shore. Footsteps in the water leave trails of light. The sea, for a moment, reveals itself. Most of Baja California is desert. Rock, dust, and open space stretching for miles without interruption. Rain is rare. In some regions, it may not fall for months, even years. Water, when it comes, is brief. It falls, runs off quickly, and disappears into the ground. Roots spread wide rather than deep, capturing what little moisture is available. What exists here survives on absence. In Valle de los Cirios, cacti rise from the ground in every direction. Storing water in thickened stems, protected by spines. Some grow low and wide, hugging the ground. Others reach upward, column-like, branching only after decades of growth. Among them is one of the most unusual plants in the world, the bujum tree. It doesn't grow straight. Instead, it twists upward in irregular forms. Tall, narrow trunks that taper as they rise. As the desert stretches north through the heart of the peninsula, the landscape shifts again. Near Catavina, the ground begins to break apart. Massive granite boulders lie scattered across the desert floor. Some are balanced on narrow points. Others split cleanly down the middle. Millions of years ago, this region was shaped by volcanic and tectonic activity. Magma cooled beneath the surface, forming large bodies of granite, solid, continuous, buried underground. Over time, the layers above eroded away. But granite doesn't weather evenly. It fractures along natural lines. Slowly, those fractures widened, edges softened. What was once a solid mass began to separate into individual forms. The boulders were not placed here, they were revealed. The Sierra de San Pedro Martyr feels disconnected from everything around it. Surrounded by desert, it creates its own environment, one that seems out of place on the peninsula. The temperature drops significantly compared to the lowlands, and in winter, snow settles across the peaks. What grows here depends on seasonal variation that simply doesn't exist in the desert below. Pine and fir trees cover the slopes, forming dense stands that stretch across the higher elevations. The ground, once bare and dry, is layered with needles and shade. It's here that one of Mexico's most important scientific installations was built. The Observatorio Astronómico Nacional. Far from major cities, this range offers some of the best conditions for observing the night sky. In 1697, Jesuit missionaries established the first permanent settlement in the region. The mission founded here became the first of many, a starting point for a chain that would extend northward. Around it gradually grew Laredo, that served as the capital of the Californias. Supplies arrived by ship until routes inland were carved decades later, often following ancient paths used by indigenous groups. Everything here had to be adapted: agriculture to scarce water, construction to extreme heat. Modern Laredo still remains compact, contained between the sea and the rising slopes of the Sierra de la Giganta. In this rugged interior, surrounded by steep hills, stands the Mission San Francisco Javier de Vigue Biondo. Thick walls, simple lines, built to endure heat, time, and isolation. Unlike many early structures, it has survived largely intact, one of the best preserved missions in Baja California. Another notable example of colonial architecture, the impressive Mission San Ignacio Catacaman, was founded in 1728 at the palm-lined Cochimí Oasis. The presence of a reliable freshwater source made long-term settlement more viable. Agriculture could take hold, communities could form with less dependence on external supply. Built from dark volcanic stone, the mission is heavier, more solid in appearance than many others across the peninsula. Thick walls absorb the heat of the day and release it slowly at night. Construction began decades after the first missions, at a time when techniques had adapted to local conditions. Palm groves still surround the church today, fed by the same water source that made its construction possible. A long, curved inlet of Baja Concepcion stretches along the eastern coast. Mountain ridges of the Sierra de la Giganta run parallel to the shoreline, protecting the bay from the open Gulf. There is little vegetation here, just rock and sand meeting the sea directly. And between those slopes, small coves open one after another, each with its own stretch of beach. The color of the sea shifts constantly, deep blue in the center of the bay, fading into turquoise near the shore. Many of these coves are shallow, allowing light to penetrate easily, revealing the contours beneath the surface. The bay extends for miles, creating a series of micro-environments. Some areas remain completely still. Others feel the movement of the Gulf more directly. Beneath the surface, giant shadows glide. Broad backs, wide, flattened heads. Whale sharks, the largest fish on Earth. Up to 40 feet in length, weighing several tons, it moves with no urgency, no visible effort. The tail sweeps from side to side in powerful strokes, carrying the shark forward through water. Its mouth, wide, forward-facing, remains open as it swims, filtering water continuously. Inside, fine structures trap plankton and microscopic organisms drifting in the current. Their bodies are marked with patterns, white spots and lines scattered across the skin. No two are the same. These markings allow researchers to identify individuals over time, tracking their movements across oceans. In the nutrient-rich waters of the Gulf of California, several species of sea turtles pass through. Most of their lives unfold out of sight, moving between feeding grounds. But at a certain time, something changes. The movement becomes directional. After years at sea, they return, not just to this region, but to specific stretches of coastline. The turtle climbs beyond the reach of the tide, searching for a place that feels right. With its flippers, it carves a narrow chamber into the sand, deep enough to hold what comes next. One by one, the eggs are laid. Dozens of them, soft-shelled, fragile, buried out of sight. Weeks later, the sand begins to move. Hatchlings emerge together, breaking through the surface. Driven by instinct alone, they orient toward the brightest horizon, the reflection of light over the sea. Vanishing into the vastness of the Gulf, carried by currents, repeating the same patterns. Far to the north, flat terrain stretches towards the Pacific, broken by geometric patterns etched into the ground. This is Guerrero Negro, one of the largest salt production operations in the world. Vast salt flats extend for miles, rectangular ponds separated by thin barriers. Each one part of a controlled process. The method is simple, and it depends entirely on the environment. Seawater is drawn in from the nearby coast and directed into a series of evaporation ponds. Under the constant sun and dry air, the water begins to disappear. As it evaporates, minerals begin to crystallize. Machines move across the flats, harvesting the salt in long, measured lines. It is collected, processed, and shipped around the world. An industrial system built directly on natural conditions. Once a year, the sheltered waters of Laguna San Ignacio fill with giants. The gray whale arrives here after one of the longest migrations of any mammal on Earth. Traveling thousands of miles from feeding grounds in the Arctic, these whales follow the Pacific coastline south. Protected from heavy surf, San Ignacio serves as a nursery. Female gray whales give birth in these lagoons. For the first weeks of life, calves remain close, learning to exist in the open world. Mothers guide them to the surface to breathe. It is a period of intense dependence, played out in a place that allows it. In many parts of the world, whales keep their distance from humans. Here, something different happens. Individuals surface nearby, sometimes within arm's reach. They linger, observe. And at times, even initiate contact, lifting their heads above the water, allowing careful interaction. On the eastern side of the peninsula, where the desert meets the upper reaches of the Gulf of California, sits San Felipe. Here, the tides are among the most extreme in all of Mexico. The sea can retreat for miles, exposing vast stretches of wet sand. The boundary between land and water is never fixed. It shifts constantly, redefining the shoreline twice a day. For much of its history, San Felipe was an isolated fishing outpost. Only in the mid-20th century, the construction of roads linking it to cities like Mexicali opened the region. Tourism followed, drawn by the unique tidal landscapes and warm, shallow waters. Wide, open, and constantly changing, the beach of San Felipe doesn't resemble the enclosed coves of Bahia Concepcion. The water is warmer here than in much of the Gulf, shallow, sunlit, and accessible. Along the Pacific coast, the interaction between land and water takes on a different form. Here, waves don't just meet the shoreline, they collide with it. La Bufadora, a rocky coastline shaped by constant exposure to the open ocean. And below the surface, a narrow sea cave cuts into the cliffs. When the conditions align, that hidden structure reveals itself. A wave rolls in from the Pacific, building as it approaches the shore. It crashes into the opening of the cave, forcing water into a confined space with nowhere to go. A column of water erupts upward, shooting into the air in a sudden burst, sometimes reaching heights of over 60 feet. The sound follows a fraction of a second later, a deep, hollow roar echoing through the rock. Unlike many settlements along the peninsula, Ensenada developed with direct access to the Pacific. Its natural harbor made it one of the few places on this coast where maritime activity could expand beyond fishing. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Ensenada grew as a port town connected to international routes. Shipping came first, cargo, fishing fleets. The port remains active today, handling both commercial goods and a steady flow of visitors. It's one of the busiest maritime points on the peninsula, linking Baja California to broader Pacific routes. It is also a place of arrival. Cruise ships dock here. Roads connect Ensenada directly to the border. Movement is constant. People coming and going, goods passing through, the city functioning as a link to the outside world. Ensenada has also become known for its food culture, particularly seafood. The connection is direct. What comes out of the water in the morning often appears on a plate the same day. Fish tacos, simple in structure, precise in execution, originated here and remain one of the defining elements of the city's identity. The climate around Ensenada is different from the southern peninsula. Cooler, influenced by the Pacific. Marine layers roll in from the ocean, bringing fog and moderating temperatures. The result is a narrow coastal zone where conditions allow something rare: agriculture. Inland from the city lies the Valle de Guadalupe, Mexico's primary wine-producing area. Vineyards spread across the valley, sustained by a Mediterranean-like climate, created by ocean influence and elevation. Cool air moves inland at night. Morning fog lingers over the vines. Afternoons bring sun and heat, allowing grapes to ripen evenly. It's a balance. What winemakers call diurnal variation become essential. What began as a small experimental wine region in the 20th century has expanded into the center of Mexican viticulture. Dozens of wineries now operate across the landscape, all working within the same constraints imposed by climate and terrain. At the far northern edge of the peninsula, the landscape reaches a different kind of boundary. Not geological, but political. Set directly along the line between Mexico and United States, Tijuana is one of the busiest border cities in the world. Historically, its growth accelerated in the early 20th century, driven in part by its proximity to the United States. During periods like Prohibition, it became a destination, offering what was restricted across the border. Today, Tijuana is a complex, layered city, industrial, cultural, transitional. Daily crossings connect services across the border in both directions. The flow never stops. A high concrete wall marks that boundary, extending directly into the ocean. It cuts across hills, descends into valleys, and finally reaches the shoreline, where it dives in the Pacific. a man-made division imposed on a continuous geography. Further east, the border continues, but the landscape changes completely. If Tijuana is shaped by the Pacific, Mexicali is defined by the desert. It sits inland, directly across from Calexico. In summer, the heat becomes the dominant force. Daytime temperatures can exceed 115 degrees Fahrenheit, one of the hottest urban areas in Mexico. And yet, despite those conditions, Mexicali exists because of water. The city lies within the Colorado River Delta. In the early 20th century, irrigation projects redirected water from the Colorado River, transforming surrounding desert into farmland. But like many border cities, there is another layer. The presence of organized crime, particularly groups like the Sinaloa cartel, has at times influenced the region. Trafficking routes and proximity to the border create conditions where illicit networks operate alongside legal systems. Meanwhile, at the southern end of the peninsula, San Jose del Cabo began as a mission settlement. In the 18th century, Spanish missionaries established a foothold here, drawn by a reliable source of fresh water. The historic center still reflects that origin. A central plaza, narrow streets, low whitewashed buildings designed to manage heat and light, and the mission church that anchors the layout. The beaches here are wide and exposed. Though swimming is limited in many areas, the coastline remains a focal point. Along the shore stretches a corridor of resorts and hotels, modern structures facing the Pacific. Tourism has become a defining force here, transforming the area into part of the larger Los Cabos region. Beachfront properties create a continuous band of human presence where the land meets the sea. At first glance, Cerritos Beach feels simple. A long arc of sand, low hills rising behind it. No major city pressing against the coast. But here, the Pacific moves differently. Waves travel thousands of miles across open ocean before reaching this stretch of coastline. Uninterrupted, building energy over distance. And when they finally meet the seabed at Cerritos, that energy transforms into surf. Consistent, rolling waves break along the beach, forming one of the few reliable surf spots on this part of the peninsula. Beyond the water, development is minimal compared to larger hubs like San Jose del Cabo. A few structures line the edge, small hotels, scattered homes, but the scale is restrained. The desert still dominates the background. Rising in dry, muted tones behind the bright strip of sand. Our journey across Baja California has come to an end. From the shifting currents of the Gulf of California to the exposed shores of the Pacific, we've traced a landscape shaped by contrast. Along the way, we revealed how diverse and complex this peninsula truly is. Baja California is not defined by a single environment, but by the interaction of many, each one influencing the next. Forming a region that is both harsh and productive, isolated and connected. Thank you for traveling with us, and until the next journey.